The invitation had arrived 3 weeks ago, gold lettering on cream cardstock, announcing my brother-in-law's 40th birthday celebration. Black tie optional, it read, though everyone knew Caroline's family never did anything that wasn't meticulously orchestrated. I'd picked up my tuxedo from the cleaners that morning, the same one I'd worn to our wedding 7 years ago. It still fit, though everything else about our marriage had changed dramatically. "Ready?" Jennifer called from the bathroom, her voice carrying that particular brightness she'd adopted lately, the one that felt performative, like she was rehearsing lines for an audience I couldn't see. I adjusted my bow tie in the hallway mirror, studying my reflection. At 35, I looked tired. The kind of tired that sleep couldn't fix. Dark circles shadowed my eyes, souvenirs from months of restless nights spent wondering when exactly I'd lost my wife. Not physically, she still slept beside me most nights, her back a wall between us. But emotionally, mentally, she'd been gone for nearly 6 months. The signs had been obvious in retrospect. The sudden interest in her appearance after years of comfortable indifference. New lingerie hidden in the back of her drawer. The phone she guarded like a national secret, always face down, always on silent. Late nights at work that smelled of cologne I didn't wear. I wasn't stupid, just hopeful. Hoping I was wrong, hoping it would pass, hoping we could salvage what we'd built. Jennifer emerged from the bathroom in a red dress I'd never seen before, bold, daring, cut lower than anything she'd worn in years. She looked stunning and she knew it. The smile she gave me was triumphant, not intimate. "You look beautiful," I said, because it was true and because some habits die hard. "Thanks," she replied, already turning away to grab her clutch. No compliment returned. No warmth in her eyes. Just transaction and distance. The drive to the venue took 40 minutes through suburban Connecticut, past houses with perfect lawns and perfect lives. We didn't speak. The silence had become our third passenger, always present, always heavy. I focused on the road while Jennifer's fingers danced across her phone screen, typing furiously, smiling at responses I wasn't meant to see. "Who are you texting?" I asked, hating how pathetic I sounded. "Just Caroline, about the party," she lied smoothly. She'd become an excellent liar. The country club was exactly what I expected. Soaring ceilings, crystal chandeliers, and enough champagne to float a yacht. Caroline had outdone herself. 200 guests milled about in designer clothes, air-kissing, and exchanging pleasantries that meant nothing. This was Jennifer's world, not mine. I'd grown up middle-class in Ohio, she'd grown up here, among the country club set where appearances were currency and scandal was death. I'd met Jennifer at a mutual friend's wedding 8 years ago. She'd been different then, or maybe I'd been too blinded by infatuation to see who she really was. She'd seemed warm, genuine, tired of the superficiality of her social circle. She'd loved that I was real, that I worked with my hands as a carpenter, that I didn't care about the things her family valued. Her father had hated me from the start, certain I was after the family money. The joke was on him. Jennifer's trust fund was locked until she turned 40, and I'd never wanted it anyway. We'd been happy once. I remembered lazy Sunday mornings, her laughter, the way she'd curl into me on the couch. When that changed, I couldn't pinpoint. Maybe it was gradual, like erosion. Maybe it was sudden, and I'd just been too busy to notice. "There's David." Jennifer's voice cut through my thoughts, sharp with an excitement she never showed me anymore. I followed her gaze across the room to a man in an expensive suit, tall, polished, everything I wasn't. David Brennan, her colleague from the marketing firm. I'd met him once at a company dinner. He'd been charming, confident, the kind of man who collected beautiful things. Jennifer was already moving toward him, leaving me standing alone with a glass of champagne I didn't want, at a party celebrating a man I barely knew, in a marriage that was already over. I just didn't know yet how publicly it would end. I made my way to the bar, ordering a scotch instead of champagne. If I was going to endure this evening, I needed something stronger. The bartender, a young guy with kind eyes, nodded sympathetically as he poured, like he recognized the look of a man barely holding it together. "Rough night?" he asked quietly. "Long marriage," I replied, which somehow encompassed everything. From my position at the bar, I had a clear view of the party. Jennifer had found David near the orchestra, and they were talking with an intensity that made my chest tight. She touched his arm as she laughed, that genuine laugh I hadn't heard in months. He leaned in close, whispering something that made her blush. They looked like lovers. They probably were. Michael. My brother-in-law, Greg, clapped me on the shoulder with the enthusiasm of someone 3 drinks deep. Glad you could make it. Where's Jennifer? I gestured vaguely toward where she stood with David. Greg followed my gaze, and I watched his expression shift: surprise, discomfort, pity. Ah, he said, which spoke volumes. Listen, Mike, I need to tell you something. Greg. Caroline appeared like a perfectly styled missile, intercepting whatever confession he'd been about to make. Come meet the Hendersons. They want to discuss their kitchen renovation. She smiled at me, all teeth and no warmth. You'll excuse us, Michael. She dragged Greg away before he could protest, but not before I caught the warning look she shot him. So Caroline knew. Probably everyone knew. I was the fool who'd shown up to perform the role of devoted husband while his wife conducted her affair in plain sight. I downed my scotch and ordered another. The evening crawled forward like a wounded animal. Dinner was served, some elaborate 5-course affair that tasted like ash in my mouth. I was seated between Greg's Aunt Martha, who was deaf in one ear, and a business associate who spent the entire meal talking about his stock portfolio. Jennifer sat 3 seats down, next to David. They might as well have been alone. She fed him bites of her dessert. He refilled her wine glass with attentive precision. They were building a world that had no space for me. I excused myself between courses, needing air, needing escape. The terrace was empty, overlooking the golf course bathed in moonlight. I loosened my bow tie and let the November cold bite through my tuxedo. The pain felt clarifying. You know, don't you? I turned to find Greg standing in the doorway, 2 cigars in hand. He offered me one and I took it, grateful for something to do with my hands. Yeah, I said simply. I know. I wanted to tell you. Caroline said it wasn't our business, but, he paused, lighting both cigars. You're my friend, Mike. You were my friend before you married into this family. You deserved to know. How long have you known? 3 months. I saw them together at a restaurant downtown. They didn't see me. He exhaled smoke into the night. I'm sorry, man. Jennifer's my sister-in-law, but what she's doing is wrong. The way she's flaunting it tonight, it's cruel. I nodded, not trusting my voice. The confirmation hurt more than the suspicion had. What are you going to do? Greg asked. I don't know. I keep thinking she'll end it, that we can fix this. We have history. We have a life together. Do you, though? Because from where I'm standing, she's already left. He was right, of course. I'd been clinging to the corpse of our marriage, hoping for resurrection while Jennifer had already moved on. We finished our cigars in companionable silence. When we returned inside, the party had shifted into its final phase. Dancing, loosened inhibitions, masks slipping. The orchestra played something slow and romantic. Couples swayed on the dance floor, holding each other close. Jennifer danced with David. I stood at the edge of the room and watched my wife in another man's arms. She looked radiant, alive in a way she hadn't been with me in years. He whispered something in her ear and she threw her head back, laughing with pure joy. Her hand rested on his chest, intimate and possessive. They moved like they'd done this 1,000 times before. People were noticing. I felt their glances, saw the whispered conversations behind raised hands. The pity was worse than the betrayal. I was the cuckold at the party, the husband too blind or too weak to see what everyone else could. I should have left then. Should have walked out with whatever dignity I had remaining. But some masochistic part of me needed to see how far she'd go, how little our marriage meant in the face of whatever she'd found with him. The song ended. David kissed Jennifer's hand, then her cheek, lingering too long, too close to her mouth. She blushed like a teenager. They walked off the dance floor together, heading toward the terrace where Greg and I had stood minutes before. I followed. I kept my distance, staying in the shadows of the French doors while Jennifer and David stepped onto the terrace. The same terrace where I'd stood with Greg, trying to process the death of my marriage. Now I watched it happen in real time. David's hands were on her waist. Jennifer's arms wrapped around his neck. They kissed like the world had disappeared, deep, passionate, completely unguarded. When they finally broke apart, both were breathing hard. "We should be more careful," Jennifer said, but she was smiling. "People might see." "Let them see," David replied, pulling her closer. "I'm tired of hiding. Tell him tonight. End it properly." "I will. After the party. I promise." She kissed him again. "You're so much better than him, David. You actually understand me. Michael's his small dreams, small ambitions, small life. I don't know what I was thinking." The words hit like physical blows. 7 years reduced to small. Everything I'd built, every sacrifice I'd made, dismissed with casual cruelty. "You were young," David said generously. "You didn't know what you wanted. But now you do." "Now I do," she agreed, and they kissed again. I walked away before I could hear more. My hands were shaking, rage and humiliation warring in my chest. I found the bar again, ordered another scotch, and tried to decide what version of myself I wanted to be. The confrontational husband who made a scene? The dignified man who left quietly? The fool who pretended he hadn't seen anything? Michael. Caroline appeared beside me, her expression unreadable. "We need to talk." "Not now, Caroline." "Yes, now." She gripped my arm with surprising strength. "I know this is difficult, but you need to handle this discreetly. This is my party. Greg's party. Don't ruin it with drama." I stared at her, genuinely amazed. "Your concern for my humiliation is touching." "I'm concerned about my family's reputation. Jennifer's making a mistake, yes, but these things happen. Be an adult about it. Let her have her fun tonight, and handle your divorce quietly, privately, like civilized people." "Civilized," I repeated, the word tasting bitter. "Is it civilized to fuck someone else while your husband watches? Is it civilized to parade your affair at a family party?" "Lower your voice," Caroline hissed, glancing around. "You're making a scene." "I haven't even started making a scene." But I wouldn't. Even in my anger, I knew that. I wouldn't give them the satisfaction of seeing me lose control. Wouldn't let Jennifer rewrite our history to make me the villain, the jealous, volatile husband who couldn't handle her moving on. I finished my drink and set the glass down with deliberate care. "Don't worry, Caroline. I won't ruin your party." I went to find Jennifer. She was back inside, holding court with a group of her friends, all women who'd never liked me, who'd always thought Jennifer had married beneath her station. David stood slightly apart, but his eyes never left her. She was telling some story, animated and bright, completely unaware that I'd witnessed a betrayal on the terrace. "Jennifer," I said quietly, appearing at her elbow. "Can we talk?" She turned, and for just a moment, I saw guilt flicker across her face. But it vanished quickly, replaced by annoyance. "Now. I'm in the middle of a conversation. It's important." "So is this." She turned back to her friends, dismissing me. "Anyway, as I was saying. Jennifer." My voice was harder now. People were starting to notice. "Michael, stop being so needy. I'll talk to you later." She laughed, high and false. "He's been so clingy lately," she told her friends, as if I weren't standing right there. David moved closer, protective. "Is there a problem?" "No problem," I said, looking directly at him. "Just trying to talk to my wife." "Maybe she doesn't want to talk right now," David said, his tone carefully neutral but his meaning clear. The group around us had gone quiet. More people were watching now, sensing drama. This was exactly what Caroline had warned me against. The smart move was to walk away, to handle this privately later. But I was done being smart. Done being understanding. Done pretending. "You're right," I said to David. She probably doesn't want to talk to me. She'd rather talk to you. Or kiss you on the terrace. Or tell you how small her husband is compared to you. Jennifer's face went white, then red. You were spying on me. I was at my brother-in-law's party. You were the one conducting your affair in public. The silence was deafening now. Everyone within 20 feet had stopped pretending not to listen. Jennifer's friends looked scandalized. David looked uncomfortable. Jennifer looked furious. How dare you, she hissed. You have no right. I have every right. I'm still your husband. Not for much longer. The words were out before she could stop them, loud enough for everyone to hear. The party had stopped. Not officially, the orchestra still played, waiters still circulated with champagne, but the energy had shifted entirely to us. We'd become the evening's entertainment, the scandal that would fuel gossip for months. I could feel dozens of eyes watching, waiting to see what would happen next. Jennifer's fury had given way to something harder, more calculated. She'd made her declaration, and now she was committed to it. I'd backed her into a corner, and Jennifer had never been one to retreat gracefully. You want to do this here, she said, her voice carrying across the room. Fine. Let's do this here. Jennifer, David started, reaching for her arm. She shook him off. No. He wants honesty. He'll get honesty. She turned to face me fully, her beautiful face twisted with contempt. I'm not happy, Michael. I haven't been happy in years. You're a good man, sure. Dependable. Stable. Boring. God, you're so boring. The same routines, the same conversations, the same mediocre life. I feel like I'm suffocating. Each word was a calculated strike, designed to hurt. And they did. But beneath the pain, something else was crystallizing, clarity. Then why didn't you just leave? I asked quietly. Why the affair? Why the lies? Because I was trying to be kind. She laughed bitterly. I didn't want to hurt you. I thought maybe it would just fizzle out, or you'd figure it out and make it easy by leaving first. But you just kept plodding along, oblivious, making dinner and planning date nights like everything was fine. I was fighting for our marriage. I didn't want you to fight. I wanted you to let go. Her hands were shaking now, wine sloshing in her glass. David understands ambition. He understands wanting more from life than a 3-bedroom house and a vegetable garden. He's successful, sophisticated, going places. He makes me feel alive. David looked increasingly uncomfortable, probably realizing that being the other man was more appealing in secret than in front of 200 witnesses. Jennifer, maybe we should. Tell him, she interrupted, looking at David with wild eyes. Tell him how much better we are together. Tell him what you told me this morning. This morning. So they'd spent last night together too. Probably while I'd been picking up my tuxedo, imagining tonight would be a chance to reconnect. David cleared his throat. This isn't the time or place. Yes, it is. Jennifer's voice had risen to near hysteria. The champagne and adrenaline were catching up with her. You said you loved me. You said we had a future. You said I deserved better than settling for someone like him. The crowd had grown. Caroline was trying to move people along, to create some privacy, but no one was budging. This was too good, too raw. My humiliation was their entertainment. I do love you, David said carefully, measuring his words. But maybe we should discuss this privately. Why? Everyone here already knows. They've been watching us all night. She spun back to me, gesturing wildly. Even you figured it out. Finally. Dense as you are. Jennifer. Greg appeared, trying to intervene. Let's calm down. I am calm, she shouted. I'm finally being honest. For the first time in months, I'm saying what I actually feel instead of tiptoeing around Michael's feelings. She drained her wine glass and grabbed another from a passing waiter. You want to know the truth, Michael? David is better. Better in bed, better conversation, better at everything. He has a penthouse in the city. He drives a Porsche. He takes me to actual restaurants, not diners. He's what I should have had all along. The words were meant to destroy me. And they did, partially. But they also revealed something I hadn't seen clearly before. Jennifer wasn't just unhappy with me. She was unhappy with herself, with choices she'd made, with the life she'd built. David wasn't better, he was just different, newer, more exciting. In 5 years, she'd probably be saying the same things about him to someone else. I hope he makes you happy, I said, and I meant it. Not sarcastically, genuinely. I hope you find whatever it is you're looking for. My response seemed to deflate her anger. She'd wanted a fight, wanted me to rage or beg or give her a reason to justify her actions. My calm acceptance threw her off balance. That's it, she said incredulously. That's all you have to say. What do you want me to say, Jennifer? That you've broken my heart? You have. That I feel humiliated? I do. That I wish things were different? Obviously. But you've made your choice. I'm not going to fight for someone who doesn't want to be fought for. So you're just giving up. Just like that. I'm accepting reality. There's a difference. David had moved to her side now, his hand on her lower back, possessive, claiming. She leaned into him, and I saw what I'd been refusing to see for months. They fit. They made sense together in a way we hadn't in years. They belonged to the same world of expensive suits and country clubs and measuring worth by status symbols. Fine, Jennifer said, her chin lifting defiantly. Then you understand. David and I are together now. Really together. And yes, she looked around at the crowd, making sure everyone heard, yes, I'm with him. He's better. Better than you ever were or could be. The declaration hung in the air, final and absolute. This was meant to be my ultimate humiliation, my wife publicly choosing another man, proclaiming him superior in every way. People were staring, whispering, some looking shocked, others almost gleeful at the drama. I looked at Jennifer, really looked at her, and felt the last threads of love snap. Not with anger or pain, but with exhaustion. I was tired. Tired of fighting for someone who didn't love me. Tired of the performance. Tired of pretending. I set down my empty glass with careful precision. I didn't say goodbye. Didn't make a speech. Didn't give her or David or the crowd the satisfaction of seeing me break. I simply turned and walked away. The walk from the ballroom to the parking lot felt endless. My legs moved mechanically while my mind struggled to process what had just happened. Behind me, I could hear the murmur of the crowd, voices rising as they dissected the scene. But I didn't look back. Looking back would mean acknowledging the humiliation, and I refused to give Jennifer that power. The November air hit me like a slap when I stepped outside. I'd left my coat inside but couldn't bring myself to return for it. The valet looked surprised to see me so early. It wasn't even 10 o'clock. Leaving already, sir? Yes. He must have sensed something in my tone because he didn't make small talk, just hurried to retrieve my car, a 9-year-old Honda that seemed especially pathetic after Jennifer's comments about David's Porsche. But it was paid off and it was mine, and right then, that mattered more than anything. I sat in the driver's seat, engine running, heat slowly filling the cold interior. My hands gripped the steering wheel but I didn't drive. Couldn't drive yet. The adrenaline was fading, replaced by a hollow ache that seemed to fill every part of me. My phone buzzed. Text messages flooding in. I glanced at the screen. Greg, Mike, I'm so sorry. That was unforgivable. Caroline, you need to come back. We need to manage this situation. An unknown number. Dude, I'm Greg's friend Tom. That took balls. Respect. I turned off my phone. For 7 years, I'd built my life around Jennifer. I'd moved to Connecticut for her, left my friends and family in Ohio. I'd endured her father's contempt and her mother's barely concealed disappointment. I tried to fit into a world that never wanted me. And for what? To be publicly humiliated at a party, dismissed as small, boring, inadequate. But as I sat there, something unexpected happened. Beneath the pain, beneath the humiliation, I felt something else emerging: relief. The pretending was over. The hoping and waiting and wondering, finished. Jennifer had made her choice explicitly, publicly, irrevocably. There was no going back from what had happened tonight. No reconciliation possible. The marriage was truly, finally over. And I was free. The realization didn't make the pain disappear, but it contextualized it differently. Yes, I was hurt. Yes, I felt humiliated. But I was also liberated from a relationship that had become a prison. No more walking on eggshells. No more analyzing every word and gesture, trying to understand what I'd done wrong. No more loving someone who looked at me with contempt. I put the car in drive and pulled out of the parking lot. As I turned onto the main road, I saw Greg running toward the entrance, probably sent to bring me back. I didn't stop. The drive home took 40 minutes. Our house, soon to be just her house, sat dark and empty. I'd left a light on in the kitchen that morning, one of those small domestic habits that suddenly seemed pointless. Why had I cared about saving electricity when my wife was sleeping with another man? I walked through rooms filled with our shared history. The couch we'd picked out together. The photos on the walls from happier times. The kitchen table where we'd eaten breakfast this morning in silence, both pretending everything was fine. It all felt like artifacts from someone else's life. I packed methodically: clothes, toiletries, important documents, my grandfather's watch. I left everything else. The furniture, the wedding gifts, the life we'd built. Jennifer could have it all. I just wanted out. It was nearly midnight when I finished. I loaded my car with 2 suitcases and a box of personal items. That's what 7 years of marriage reduced to: 2 suitcases and a box. I drove to a hotel near the highway, checked in using a credit card in just my name, and collapsed on the generic bed in the generic room. My phone was still off. Tomorrow I'd turn it back on, would start the process of untangling our lives. Would call a lawyer, would tell my family, would begin the practical work of divorce. But tonight, I just needed to be alone with the wreckage. I must have fallen asleep eventually because I woke to sunlight streaming through thin curtains. My phone showed 43 missed calls and over 100 text messages. Most were from Jennifer. "Where are you? We need to talk. You're being childish. David left. He said I embarrassed him. This is your fault. You forced me to say those things. Everyone's talking about us. You humiliated me. Call me back. Please. Michael, I'm sorry. Can we talk about this?" The messages tracked a journey from anger to realization to panic. David had left. Of course he had. Being the exciting other man was one thing. Being publicly named as the affair partner who broke up a marriage at a society party was another. His reputation mattered to him, and Jennifer had damaged it along with everything else. I deleted the messages without responding. There were also messages from Greg, from my parents in Ohio who'd heard from someone at the party, from my business partner asking if I was okay. Those I would respond to eventually. But not yet. I spent the day in that hotel room, ordering room service and watching mindless television. I let myself feel the pain without trying to fix it or analyze it or make it mean something. My marriage was over. My wife had chosen someone else. She'd done it publicly and cruelly. These were facts, and facts simply existed. By evening, I felt steady enough to think practically. I called a lawyer a friend had recommended once. Left a message about needing divorce representation. Called my parents, let them say comforting things parents say, promised I'd visit soon. Called my business partner, assured him I'd be at work Monday, asked him to handle things for a few days. Then I called Greg. "Mike, Jesus, I've been worried. Where are you?" "A hotel. I'm fine." "You're not fine." "What Jennifer did," he paused. "The party ended early. After you left, people started leaving in groups. No one wanted to celebrate while you were gone, and Jennifer was crying at the bar. She was crying. Reality set in. David left about 15 minutes after you did. Told her he needed space to think. Caroline spent an hour trying to salvage the situation, but honestly, People were disgusted. Not with you. With Jennifer. You walking away like that, with dignity. People respected it. I hadn't walked away with dignity intentionally. I'd walked away because staying would have destroyed me. But I didn't correct him. Her parents took her home, Greg continued. Her mother called me this morning. Jennifer wants to talk to you. Says she made a mistake. She did make a mistake. Several of them. So you'll talk to her? No. Mike. Greg, I appreciate everything. You've been a good friend. But I'm done. Whatever Jennifer wants to say, she can say it to my lawyer. There was a long pause. Okay. I understand. For what it's worth, I think you're doing the right thing. Caroline disagrees. She thinks you should hear Jennifer out, try counseling, but Caroline's more concerned about appearances than what's actually right. Tell Caroline I appreciate her concern, I said, meaning it sarcastically but keeping my tone neutral. When are you coming back for your stuff? I already got what I needed. She can keep the rest. You're really done. I'm really done. We talked for a few more minutes, making plans to meet for lunch next week, maintaining the friendship despite the family connection. Greg was a good man caught in the middle, and I didn't want to lose him along with everything else. After we hung up, I sat with my thoughts. Jennifer wanted to talk. Of course she did. David had left, reality had crashed in, and suddenly the exciting affair didn't look so appealing compared to the stability she'd thrown away. She'd want to explain, to justify, to maybe even reconcile. But I was done being her backup plan, her safety net, her consolation prize. She'd made her choice at that party, not just to be with David, but to humiliate me publicly while doing it. The cruelty of it, the calculated nature of her words, showed me who she really was. Not the woman I'd married, but the woman she'd become. Or maybe always been, and I'd been too in love to see it. My phone buzzed again. Jennifer calling. I let it go to voicemail. The next few weeks blurred together. I found an apartment. Small, modest, mine. I met with lawyers, divided assets, started the divorce process. Jennifer contested nothing, which told me she felt guilty. Or maybe David had come back and she just wanted it over quickly. I didn't ask. I returned to work, threw myself into projects, spent time with friends who'd been neglected during my marriage. I called my parents weekly, planned a visit home for Christmas. I started seeing a therapist who helped me process not just the betrayal but the relief. People talked, of course. The story of that party had spread through Jennifer's social circle like wildfire. I heard through Greg that Jennifer had become somewhat of a pariah, the woman who'd publicly destroyed her marriage for a man who'd then abandoned her. David had started dating someone else, someone age-appropriate and unattached, which apparently wounded Jennifer deeply. I felt no satisfaction in her suffering. Just sadness for both of us, for the marriage we'd lost, for the people we'd become. 3 months after that party, the divorce was finalized. I was single again, starting over at 35. It wasn't the life I'd planned, but it was honest. No more pretending, no more performances, no more loving someone who looked at me with contempt. I was free. And slowly, painfully, I was learning that sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is walk away. Not with angry speeches or dramatic gestures, but with quiet dignity. Let your absence be the statement. Let your silence speak volumes. Jennifer had yelled his better at that party, trying to wound me, trying to justify herself, trying to rewrite our history to make her the victim and me the inadequate husband. But I'd walked out without a word. And in that silence, I'd reclaimed myself. Sometimes dignity doesn't mean fighting back. Sometimes it means knowing when you've had enough, when someone has shown you exactly who they are, when the only winning move is to stop playing the game entirely. I walked away from that party, from that marriage, from that life. And I walked toward something better, myself, whole and undiminished, free to build something real with someone who would value it. That was worth more than any vindication, any revenge, any last word could ever be.